Good morning. This is John Harder, live broadcast episode number 115. How to generate free energy and create cash flow online using TBC. So this morning, I'm going to begin by giving us just a bit of a picture. If a child would be born in prison and had never been made aware of a bigger world outside, it's extremely unlikely that that child would ever think of breaking out of prison, because it would be the only world that they would have ever known. And even if they were told of a bigger world out there, depending on, of course, largely on the upbringing of that child, as to whether that child would want to go and explore this larger world, or maybe even fear to go out there and explore. As I said, it would have much to do with the upbringing of that child. Because if it had been told how dangerous it is out there all the time, and that it's, that it's... Now, before I get too far with this, I want to realize that that if the child knew nothing about a world out there, obviously they wouldn't be told that it was so dangerous, right? But let's assume this child had never known of a world out there, and when it finally did, all it had been told is how dangerous it is. So it's very unlikely that that child would have much of a desire of going out and exploring, because of, obviously, because of how dangerous it is. Having no idea that, how wonderful and awesome it can actually be there. Having said that, I want to talk about black magic for just a little bit here. And maybe you say, well, what is black magic? Black magic is pretty much exactly that, where people are being told how dangerous it is, and that's the only side they've ever seen. That's the only way they know it, or they think they do, that it's very dangerous. For instance, I never knew it, but there are people here in Canada that literally have the idea that that it is very dangerous in other countries. It's very dangerous in Mexico and who knows what all other countries. It's so dangerous to go there. When actually that's where there is, often that's where the people are so nice, and there is really nothing to fear. Let me just acknowledge those of you who have joined. Serenes, thank you for joining my broadcast this morning. Crypto Review, Pedro, thank you for joining me. Jules Ann, thank you very much for coming along on my broadcast as well. And Jacob, thank you very much. And I believe Pete is also listening, if he's I don't see him in the chat here, but I believe he's listening. It says there's 5 viewers, five viewers. Yeah, and they're not all in the chat, are they? There's only 4. All right, so thank you very much for joining me in this. Now, where am I going with this? Okay, so let's talk about this black magic for a little bit. Okay, there have now been numerous people that have come forth that were basically in the bondage of the deep state, or whatever you want to call these people. And these people, they are literally Satan worshippers, and people who have been working for them. Many of those people have actually come forth and are beginning to to tell the truth about what's going on, what they're doing, and stuff like that. So there's much stuff has now come to light of the secret hidden things that they do, and that they use to deceive humanity. And one of the interesting things that I found as I was watching some of the videos of the people that have come out from the powers that shouldn't be. I don't really like to attribute the name elite to them, because I don't think I don't think they are elite at all. But these people, they are using the vibrations, the vibrational field to for the purpose of dumbing people down, of controlling people's minds, and stuff like that. And this cannot very easily, or if at all even, be done to people who are in full tune full in tune with the spirit. What do I mean, in tune with the spirit? Being fully connected with the reality of life, with the life principle, as it were, where all things come from. Your connection with God. Now, as I was saying, one of the videos that I was watching, there was this person. He had in mind to reveal one of these, an instant of these dark secrets of what had been going on. And they had this person under his mind captivated enough that when he wanted to talk about it, he just couldn't talk. He was not able to speak. He was his mind just sort of like went under a huge pressure, under which he was not able to remember what to say, or even say anything, I don't believe. And this went on for a certain amount of time, and eventually they gave it up on that session because of what went on. And I think they had again attempted it afterwards, and were successful. I don't remember those details for sure, though. But all that was given me at that point was that that there was that he wasn't able to share it, right? He wasn't able to say what he was going to say because his mind was under control by someone else. Now, this is easily possible also, and not as from using dark magic, black magic, as it were. But this is also, there is a we all actually have the capability of clairaudience and clairvoyance. For instance, there was a person in the U.S., lived in the U.S. His daughter was in a different state, like in the U.S. as well, but in another state where she lived, and she got ill. She got very ill and was in hospital. And when her father heard about it, he healed her using clairvoyance. So how did that happen? Well, what he did is that he got himself in a completely in a state of complete, now how do you say it now, rest, like calm, completely basically completely neutralized his thoughts, and then he and healed her, told her that that she was now healed of this, of whatever that was that she had. And some minutes later, the nurse came in to see the daughter, and she said to the nurse, she says, "My father was here and he healed me, and I am now healed and I'm ready to go home." And the nurse, of course, didn't believe her, but as they did the tests and everything, she was completely healed. And so there was really nothing left to do except let her go home. And the nurse, she didn't buy it that her father had been there, because she had been on watch and knew that there had no person been walking through those doors. But he did it using clairvoyance. His body was still in the state where he lived. He only left his body to go and heal his daughter, and then came back. A total space of just several minutes that it took him to do this. Now, I know that these type of things, for many people, you would probably not believe it. But the truth is that our world that we are experiencing is only a projection of the movie that we're playing in our mind. Your physical experience is only a projection of the movie you're playing in your mind. This is why we have the power to free ourselves. We have the power to create wealth. We have the power to create our world. We have the power to do that. I could give you a story that I have already. I believe I shared it once before. It's a very short story, and I think I will quickly tell it. In Russia, during the Stalin's reign, or whatever you want to call that, there were many labor camps, and there was a person who was in one of these labor camps that escaped from the labor camp, which was considered impossible. Once a day, they would count all the slaves in the camp, and then of course, they were counted daily because many of them didn't make it through the day. And so the next day, of course, they were counted again. Well, I guess evening and morning. I'm not quite sure exactly how, but anyway, I think as the story gave it, it was once a day they were counted. Now, let me just back up a wee bit before I go too far here, because there's an important ingredient in this. He had this soldier, but this prisoner, if you will, or slave, or whatever you want to call him in there. He had met a girl in Germany before the war, and every day he would take a few minutes and visualize himself driving down one of the streets in California with this girl by his side. Every day he would envision this. And all of a sudden, one day, as the prisoners were being counted, the person counting, the guard counting the prisoners, was interrupted. And when he came back to finish his count, he started at the same number that he had already counted. And this person, his subconscious told him right away, this is your door. And so that day, he snuck out. And he made it far enough away, they never found him. And he made his way to California, met the girl that he had previously met, and found himself driving down exactly the street that he had visualized. He had seen this street in a picture, and he did exactly what he had visualized. We create our future the way we see it in our mind. And if we want TBC to be successful, then we need to see the success of it in our mind. If we want to create generators, and we want that to be a successful project helping humanity, then we need to visualize in our mind humanity everywhere using these units, and just simply enjoying life, and that they enjoying the fact that they don't have bills to pay on account of it. That is the recipe for success, is to see the success in your mind. As you do, and you enjoy seeing the success in your mind, this draws out for you the steps to take so that you make it happen. Because the success does not happen on the physical plane. It happens on the spiritual plane before it shows up physically. The success is already in your mind before it comes to fruition on the physical plane. Every successful person, that is how they become successful, whether they are aware of it or not. There are people that have tried so many things and always fail at everything. That's because that's how they see it. So at what point are we going to learn to change our mind, to learn to have a successful thought pattern, to see the success that we have already achieved, or can, I should say, but we see it already achieved on the spiritual plane, and then it will become physical. So if you're in TBC and you have you're sitting and waiting for the button to come on so you can cash out, or you're busy with something else, I just invite you, share with your friends, share with those who you come in contact with, and like who could benefit from TBC? Well, everybody who wants to be free, everybody who wants you know uh, to live a life of freedom and prosperity. Every person could benefit from it. um, the thing is, most people, as I have found in Canada, actually are not aware of the prison that they live in. And this is what I began with in this broadcast, that when we're not aware of the prison we live in, then we're not looking for a way out. And that is what I have found, that it is the way it is with many people. Now, I want to just tell you something here. For those of you who know the scriptures, which is very likely that most of you do, because the scriptures are known by very, very many people. I don't mean knowing them by memory, but I mean simply knowing that they exist and some things that are written in it. And as the scriptures give it to us, is that humanity basically will be completely blindfolded until it is too late for them to do anything about it. That is how it is laid out for us in the scriptures. If you are not sure what I'm talking about, I think it wouldn't take very long to relate to that. That humanity basically is in ignorance until sudden destruction. Suddenly it's too late. So I'm not going to quote the verse or anything, because if you know the scriptures, then I think you already know where you could find that. But there are other places in the scriptures that also tell us the freedom that we can have. It also tells us, how you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So what is the truth? Well, the truth is that if we create it on the spiritual plane, then we will experience it physically. It doesn't matter what the conditions are. As we can see from the story from this person in the prison camp, it doesn't matter what the conditions are. Daily there were people being shot, getting, shot. He could have easily just imagined himself to be one of those people getting shot. And that's what it would have been. But that isn't what he imagined. He imagined himself something different. And that's what it came to be. There isn't any person who is able to withstand the spirit of truth. You can't. You can't. The physical is only a reflection of the spiritual. So it can't, you can't, you don't know. You can't see what is going on in somebody else's mind. You are the only thinker in your mind. Even though we are all part of the absolute mind, which has all the power, but thoughts are They are still confined. Your own thoughts that you generate, they are confined to you unless you share them with someone, which actually also can be done spiritually as well. And this can be done through the vibrational field. That is also true, which actually was the case in the father that went and healed his daughter. That's what that is, using the vibrational field to actually, in his own mind, go and see his daughter, and then come back back into his body. The scriptures also talk about this, and you will probably know what I'm talking about when the Apostle Paul, in one place, he talked about whether it was in the body or out of the body. He says that I know not, or I don't know, or however it's exactly worded there, but what he is telling us, he is that whether it was in the body or outside of the body, kind of thing. So it's on the spiritual plane where it takes place. Whether I was in the body at the time or not, actually, maybe I was, maybe not, right? And this has happened to people that there was one of the videos I watched is also a man who had been working on the finances. He was actually a person that was moving the money to fund the wars. And one day he got killed. And as he left his body, he watched himself. He watched people working on him. And all of a sudden he came to, and he was back in his body again. But as he explained that he was outside of himself, watching the people working on him to try to bring him back to life. That's what's happened what happens on the spiritual plane. We can see in four dimensions, and a fourth dimension is what we can see on this plane. As he explained, that same person, he said that everything was far more beautiful than he could ever see it in his with his physical eyes, because everything was as if it was transparent and yet not, kind of thing, where it was, you could see it clearer. Grass and everything was kind of like transparent, but you could see it clearer, far clearer than anything else. And colors, he said you can feel colors. That's just a very little glimpse of the fourth dimension of life. So for those of you who want to help us in creating the energy units, we must move forward without fear. If you only know the world up to the prison walls, there is a much, much greater world out there. And it isn't nearly as dangerous as you've been made to believe. It isn't dangerous. Matter of fact, it's way better. It's not nearly as dangerous out there as it is here in prison. So let us move forward without fear. And of course, let's be, how did it say? Innocent as doves and wise as serpents. Being fearless, it doesn't mean that we go and we poke at the hornet's nest. Being fearless doesn't mean you go and you kick the sleeping bear. It doesn't mean that. but it means that we move forward as wise as we can, and yet with full confidence, knowing that what we create on the spiritual plane will become physical. And as we watch the success and enjoy the success on the spiritual plane, we will be taking the right step to bring it into physical form. Thank you so much for joining me in my broadcast this morning. I truly appreciate that you have joined me. And there's Crypto Magnet. I don't believe I saw you here before. Thank you so much for joining me as well. Haney, thank you as well for coming on board. I appreciate every one of you very much. And it is my greatest desire that we enjoy the true life that we have, that we enjoy the life on the spiritual plane, because once we have it on the spiritual plane, we will make it physical. And this is basically the message of truth. Thank you so much for watching, and you have a wonderful day. My next broadcast is going to be from Mexico. And it's likely not going to be until Thursday or Friday or somewhere thereabouts. We'll have to see how that all goes at this point. All right, you have a wonderful day, and we will hopefully see you again. Thank you.